tell you that it is all fun and games until the technology stops. So I have no idea if our intro video actually played or not. Probably not. So how are you doing today, my good, wonderful friends? It is Tuesday. It is noon. That means it is time for Heirloom Afternoon. My name is Cheryl Whited, and I am Muffin, and I hope, my good friends, that you are here joining me on this beautiful, cold, sunny downtown beautiful downtown Paducah, Kentucky. How are you doing today? I hope you're doing wonderfully well. My friends, today we are live to you through the power of the internet, and we are trying to get this video up and running. If you are out there and you can hear me, give me a thumbs up, give me a like. Hopefully, this is all working, because if it is not, I don't know. It is today, the week of Thanksgiving, and it has been a very busy week for us. We are in the process of doing a pop-up shop in our store space here in Paducah, and our store is nowhere near ready to open at all. However, being Small Business Saturday, I really don't want to miss out on all of the hard work that the Downtown Paducah associations have done in order to make their downtown Small Business Saturdays super successful. So we are opening for Black Friday and Small Business Saturday here in Paducah, Kentucky, at 117 North 4th Street. And it's going to be very exciting, and I hope that you are as excited as I am that we're doing this. If you can hear me, give me a thumbs up. If you can hear me, give me a comment. I would love to hear where you are watching from today. A couple of weeks ago, we did an episode on vintage quilt blocks, and taking those vintage quilt blocks and using a cleaning recipe for cleaning the blocks. And I wanted to show you the end results of those now that those blocks have completely dried and also have been completely readied here in the studio. So I'm excited to show you these results. So let's take a look at them. And again, if you can hear me, please let me know. I would love to hear from you. I hope you all have a wonderful Thanksgiving. If I don't, say that to you. Okay, so we did have some befores and afters to show you. And this one here, I think, really shows the before and after pretty well. This is the block that I washed on the show a couple of weeks ago. And so what you can see is that it has absolutely brightened. Look at just the difference in how dirty this block was. The other thing is that the yellow, and that's a little harder to see in the video here, but you can just see these two here are way brighter. The petals have really popped. They don't have this dirty, dull dinge feeling to them right now. So I feel like this block has really sort of woken up by having it. That little soak just did enough. It also did not fray the edges as much as I thought it would. And so just to let you know how I did this, once the block came out of the wash, I was able to then take the wet block and put it on my ironing board and just spread it out, made sure all the edges were laying flat, and then just let it air dry. I did come back and make sure that these little areas were puffed up the way they needed to be. And so that's why now this block even has more dimension to it than it did before. I just feel like that was a very, it was a very good example. But take a look at this is the exact same fabric, and it just looks night and day better. So I'm very, very pleased with how this one came out. Now, there is also this block, which we were able to put into the wash, and it also had a companion block that was also, so we could do this test. First of all, the yellow in this example is completely wide awake different, wide awake brighter. These blocks are pretty heavily soiled. You can see that here is just some staining. So again, if you can hear me, just let me know. I just wanted to make sure that you guys can hear me. Okay, so then the other thing about this block, now that it has been laundered, not all of the fabrics, the dye in the fabric is affixed in the same manner. And there is some difference here that I want to show you. So some of the stains didn't come out. So not all of the staining came out. Yeah, Marion, yay, me too. I love how this turned out as well. So this here is a comparison for you side by side of the fabrics. And while you can see the difference in the just the general brightness of the fabrics, one of the things I want to point out is that the green did fade ever so slightly. So you can see that the green had some fading, and it was much more clear before it was washed. So what we then know, okay, is that some of these fabrics, we knew by washing these blocks that we were going to get some of these dyes were going to either migrate and stain the rest of could possibly stain the rest of the blocks, or we were going to have just that little bit of deterioration and breakdown of that dye. So again, I am not upset with that, but you at home need to understand that this is how, and this is a possibility for what could happen with your fabric. So I have seen people use these recipes and the block goes completely white, okay, because the dye completely comes out. So this is just one of those cautionary tales. I do love how they have pieced this piece together in order to make a full quilt block piece. So that just shows you just how thrifty people were. But just look at the difference in the yellow. The yellow is that by far brightened up the most. It just really lifted. So this is the washed one, this is the unwashed one, and you can just see. So of these two examples, because we have this ability to go before and after, that was, now that they're dry, I wanted to give you that opportunity to see how they came out. I am going to be laundering the rest of the blocks and hopefully get some more information for you about these, but I just wanted you to see how our experiment was able to come come to fruition. So very exciting about these. So today I want to talk to you about what happens when you get a quilt, and I will use this quilt as one of those many examples, but I have a better example for these. Oh, Marion is asking, what are my plans to use these? I am absolutely going to piece them into a full quilt top. There's 30 blocks, and I am hoping to get them set and actually turn them into the quilt they should have been. That's my goal. We'll see. We'll see how far I get. But thank you for that. So today I want to talk about what if you rescue a quilt, right? Like quilt here, we've rescued. And that quilt needs repair. And I think every quilt is deserving of still being used as much as you can. And I do think that many quilts can still be used. Even though if you've washed it and you're like, oh no, it's like coming apart. So I have that quilt example, and we're going to talk about that. Okay, so let me just get this quilt up here. Now this quilt is one that is in my home. It is made by my grandmother-in-law, great-grandmother-in-law. I'm sorry, great-grandmother-in-law. And so this quilt for a long time has lived on my sofa. As you can see, only some of the blocks are really, really falling apart. You have a block like this. Now the great thing is that this pink fabric, whatever this was, is in fantastic shape. It's basically the only thing holding the whole kit and caboodle together. And there are some blocks that are in great shape. No problems here. There's just a little bit of stuffing coming out. Not a big deal. But then you have a block like this that is just completely falling apart. I love it too. Thank you, Marion. I think this is a great quilt. So these little bow tie blocks, and like I said, some of them are in great shape, but then some, and it really is not even the same fabric that's deteriorating. It's just kind of a random mess. And like I said, it's just sort of like here and there. And even some of the blocks that look great elsewhere in the quilt, those blocks do not look great. And for the longest time, not only did I keep this on my bed, on my sofa, but I still continue to use it, even though the stuffing is coming out, okay? But we're gonna talk about how can we repair a section like this? And so I want, first of all, I want you to understand, historically, this is not a significant quilt. It may be significant to me, okay? But this quilt is only precious to me and my family. It is not precious in the sense of its historical significance. It is not an artifact in those ways. I want to preserve it because I want to continue to use it. And so that's what we're going to talk about here today. And so I want you to understand that, you may at home may have a quilt of real historic significance and or age, and you should consult a textile expert before undertaking that repair. However, this quilt, this particular project does not have that significance, and therefore we can do what we need to this quilt. Okay, so we're going to talk about what you're going to need in order to do your repair. And for me, I have some quilt, just your standard quilt fabric. This is a Kona cotton white. And that's because I'm going to repair this particular section. We're also going to talk about this section over here where the damage is not so bad. We're going to get to that. Okay, so here in this section, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about how we're going to take care of this. Okay, so first of all, because we're going to repair this area, I do not need to have the stuffing, and so I know this is going to be really traumatic for some of you, but we are going to take and we're going to snip this bit of this batting away. And we're going to, I'm going to just use a little bit, I'm going to use the curved scissors here because I don't want to accidentally go down and cut into my batting or in my backing. Okay, so we're cutting this away. And notice I'm just cutting to the seam allowance because there is quilting here that, has been hand stitched in this area here. So I'm just taking it to that area and I'm just trying to trim it up so that we don't have additional lumpy batting under there. Okay, we're going to try to make this as tidy and a tidy an area as possible. Okay, so we have this lovely batting that has come out, and we're also going to do that to this one too, although we don't really need to take this batting out because it is a little bit more complete than this one. So we're going to leave that batting there, and quite frankly, I think I'm just going to put that little bit there, and we'll talk about what we're going to do with that in a second. Okay, so now what I want to do is we're going to take a piece of this fabric and we're just going to cut a larger piece. This is going to be appliqued over, and so we're going to just talk about that. What we're doing is we're going to hand sew this on to this area and create a little patch. What that's going to do is that's going to seal in the edges here. We're going to try to make this nice and tidy and make it look like the original patch as best we can. But we're still going to need a little bit of batting because we don't want this to be naked. And I do have a scrap of batting here. And so I'm just going to try to cut a piece of this batting about that size. I'm just going to eyeball this here, and then we're going to see how close I got. Okay, well, it's a little bit bigger. Pretty close. That was pretty good. All right, so we're just going to take your scissors for this. And that's going to, it's got that ASMR. And that should help us. Now, we are going to take a couple of quilting stitches in there. That's going to help seal this hole as best as we can. And we're also going to try just to tuck it under into some of these seam allowances here, just so that we can have that little patch a little nicer. Okay. So that's now not going to be completely naked. And I'm going to take this square and we're going to applique this down. But we do need to take it just a square. There we go. Here we go. All right. So now I'm going to take my, I have been using my Heirloom sewing needles on my applique. I love how nicely our Heirloom sewing needles work for all of this. So if you have not picked up your Heirloom sewing needles, this would be a good project to use them on. And so we're going to then, we're going to applique this down. Okay, so in order to do that, I'm going to find the edge here so that I can get my hand over there. Okay. Oh. We'll come in from the top. It's probably easy. I don't want to dump what I've got going here. All right, there's the edge. All right. So this is just to get it all lined up, and I'm going to even, now that my hand is underneath, I'm going to take a pin and I'm going to just secure everything through all the layers, and that way we have this ready, ready to sew down. And that's now going to help keep it secure. It might need another pin. This way. Okay, so we've got 2 pins in it, and that's gonna help keep all of this from shifting around while we take our applique stitches. Okay, so, and I'm gonna do this from the top. Am I gonna do it from the top? I don't know. I'm trying to get my hand under here. It's going to be harder the further away you get from the edge. That part I'm not going to lie about. That will be a bit of a challenge for me, even. So I'm going to come in a little bit closer so you can see what I'm doing. All right, and so you can see that I am just folding this edge over so slightly. I apologize for how my nails look. It's been a working week here in the building. And so I'm just going to start here at this edge because this is the direction I like to sew. And I'm just going to take that, see how I have folded this edge under. And now I'm going to take these just little applique stitches. Now I'm going down into, I'm not already. Not always the way. Like people are like, "Oh, Cheryl, you never get any knots. You're always so well." And I'm like, "No, it happens to me too. It happens to me on national television. Happens to me on YouTube." All right, so notice here. Then that there we go. We've got those 2 little sections just pinned down. And we're only going through the bad layers of fabric and occasionally through the whole quilt. Okay, so every once in a while I'm going down all the way to the back here. No one is going to be seeing these stitches except, and you, if you know they're there, you know that they're there to secure all this together. So don't fret. If somebody comes along and they say, "I can see that you sewed all the way through the quilt on that," you just go, "I unfriend you. Why are you looking at my stitches that close?" Nobody does that. Nobody does that. Shouldn't do that. If they're your friend, they shouldn't do that. All right, and so you can see that I'm just taking these small applique stitches. I'm trying not to make them too big because you don't want this area to catch on anything and take with it the quilt, or rip any other pieces of the quilt. So we're taking small, delicate, little bitty stitches, and we're just keep folding the edge of the fabric over until you get it married up to that little section. Marianne wants to know, can I put this in an embroidery hoop to stabilize the fabric underneath and make it easier to handle? Absolutely. And I do think that I would do that if I had sections of the quilt that I could not more easily access. Okay, so now we have this little, because this is a bow tie, we have this section that is a little on an angle, and so we're just going to cut away some of that excess. We don't need all of that. And we're going to, then, gotta get my hand back over there. We're going to then tuck this under. Okay, so you see there, I've tucked that under. We've got a little fold we're making here. And there will be a little point right there. Let's just take that. That would be one I want all the way through all the layers. And then we're just going to sew down this little section here. And again, I'm just trying to cover this area. I'm also trying to get it close to that edge where we're not taking this patchwork apart, right? We're covering it over. And get at it this angle. Now this is what I do sometimes. So my hand is under there. You see, that's my thumb. That right there is my thumb. My hand, right, is under here, sort of helping stabilize it. When you can't access all of it, right, you can use your hand there, and it's just covered with the fabric. And so I've done that, and that helps me get at this section without trying to mush all of this bulk here into my hand. You're going to get a hand stress if you try to come at all that bulk that way. Okay, so right here is that tiny corner of the bow tie. Okay, and so now we're going to just tuck this edge under. Tuck, tuck. Come on, go over there. Sometimes when you applique, I do that needle turn, right? So I want the needle to do the work, but this needs some more extra strength. There we go. So now we've got that lined up, and we're just going to go through. And I am going to go backwards over here just to take that extra stitch there, because I do want a little bit of security there at that corner. Okay, so now we're just going to sew down the edge of this block. That should go pretty quickly. And so what's the update going on while I am sewing this? I will tell you what's going on here in the building. We are opening a very 2-day pop-up shop for the holidays here in Paducah, Kentucky. We are throwing the doors open as part of Small Business Saturday and Black Friday. And so we will be open those 2 days to take part in all of the festivities that are going on downtown here in Paducah. And so I'm excited about that. And also, our Black Friday sales are coming. So if you are signed up for our email list, please stay tuned because we will be um, announcing our Black Friday sales. So it will be all hands to the pump. My dad is coming into town, so he will be here on Black Friday. And so if you are in town and you want to see Dad, that would be the time to see us. All right, and so here's our little corner again. And we're just going to tuck under the next row. And we're trying to get that corner there. There we go. We want that needle to come through the corner. All right, so and so Marianne is asking, will that be on the internet for the world that lives far away from Paducah? Yes, we are having a Black Friday sale, and there will be Black Friday specials. And so I would absolutely love for you to come out on the interwebs for that. And so I'm excited for Black Friday and Small Business Saturday. The shop is nowhere near what I'm calling its final form. We haven't done the painting yet. There's still like one or two things I would like to remodel before we open. And so that is still going to happen before we have a grand opening. But what we're having instead right now is this pop-up for Black Friday. So that's happening. I've had to turn the heat on in the building today. I realized that in order to be open to the public, that knocked over my camera there. In order for me to be open to the public, I need to have the heat on. Now, typically, I have the heat. I don't have to turn the heat on because I just come in here with a sweater and a space heater and I'm fine. But if I'm going to be open, I need to have the doors. The doors will be opening and closing and things like that. So I've had to turn the heat on for the first time. And let me tell you, I'm glad I did it today rather than the day of because that heat stinks. And anyone who lives in an area that you have to turn on the heat does stink pretty bad when you first turn it on, and that is where I'm at. So, so that is what we're doing. We turn the heat on. Now, if I sound incoherent and look like I'm about to pass out, then that means my carbon monoxide detector is not working, and you should send help. But we do have the heat on for the first time, and it's got that smell of burnt dust, and so we're trying to get that out of the smell of that out of the building before we open. Okay, so as you can see, we're very close to being done, and we just have this one side here left to do, and that will be the remainder of our little patch. So what I'm going to do too is I'm going to take a moment here to take these pins and readjust the flatness of our fabric, just to make sure that we're doing that correctly. Jerry, my good friend, says, you don't need heat, just give everybody a hot toddy. And can I tell you that in the city of Paducah, I may have a liquor license. I just need to go and apply for it. And that liquor license allows me to serve you wine and beer, and I can even give it to you in a to-go cup. And if you are in our entertainment district, which is all of downtown, you may drink outside with an open container. I have never heard of this before. I know that many areas do that, like Beale Street and Memphis and things like that. But we have that law here in Paducah. And so I am allowed to I'm allowed to give you alcohol here in Paducah. Marion, we'll call 911 for you. Thank you. If I do start to sound a more incoherent than I currently do. So there's that. I am just trying to get this little corner attached to this corner right here. As you can see, there's just some deterioration here of these areas, and we just want to make sure that we are securing it as best we can. And so that is what I'm going to do there. Now, this is one of those areas where all the fabrics are together, and therefore this area is a little difficult to sew through because it's very thick. Jerry says, there you go, mulled wine sounds amazing. And so I'll just have to get my crock pot out and heat up some wine and spices for everyone. And I'm sure that will make the dust smell go away if you are instead smelling mulled cider and wine. Doesn't that sound awesome? I cannot wait to actually be open. I've been having a lot of dreams about what the business will be like, and having the doors open, and just I'm really excited about having a little shop here in downtown Paducah, and what that is all going to look like and be like. And I'm just so excited. Okay, so I'm using that pin there to help keep everything together for me while I'm making this little repair. And as you can see, I'm trying to catch this fabric, which is directly next to our little applique here. So I'm just trying to make sure we catch that as we go. So we're getting really super close to this little piece being done here. And this is pretty cool. All right, so I'm gonna take that pin away. And this is another one where I have to give a big shout out to Marsha, one of my followers on Instagram. She is on Instagram as Speed Dogs and Fabric, and she asked me to cover this particular type of repair. And I want to tell you that it's okay to repair your quilts if you want to continue to live with them. If you have a quilt and it's falling apart and you're like, you know what, I want to take you out of rotation, I want you to just go back and be a decorative piece, or just have you on display, and you don't care about the repair part, that's perfectly acceptable as well. There's no rule here whatsoever. And so here we're at the end, and I'm just securing that little corner there, and now I'm going to slip this through to the back. And we're going to just knot that thread, and give it a couple, because why not? And now what I want to do is I'm going to take the stitches here in the center that will help keep that square of batting from shifting around. So, again, this is one of those where you're going to use your quilting threads. We're going to just do this as a little hand quilt. It's not going to be, very, it's not going to be very pretty. I'm not going to mark it. I'm just going to sew. And I'm going to go ahead, make my little knot here. We're going to make a big knot because we want that to be very well anchored. And if you can remember, the batting was sort of away from the edge. And so we're going to sew within this area in order to get that. And so normally I hoop my quilting here, for hand quilting, but we're you should probably hoop it. I am not going to, and I do like these long needles for the fact that they can go through all these layers. I'm not trying to replicate. I don't want 12 stitches per inch here. Look, I mean, I want done. Done is better than perfect. Okay. I don't want you to fret about hand quilting at all. I'm just trying to secure these so that they stay together. And I'm doing this with my hand on the bottom. My finger is right there. And as I go down through the quilt, I feel the tip of the needle and then I come back up. That's how I do hand quilting. And like I said, this would normally be typically be hooped, but you can, I mean, I know ladies who hand quilt with no hoops, no nothing. So you can do the same. There's no rules. Remember, quilting has no rules. And we're just doing this to secure that little square of batting that we replaced in there so it doesn't shift around once we are able to use and or wash this quilt again. I will use these quilts and I will wash them again, even if they have the holes and the stuffing still falling out and all of that. And sometimes that's just part of its charm. And so, oops, that one was a little crooked, but I don't care. And, it's just, we're just trying to keep these layers from shifting around. And you're probably even thinking, like, do I even have to do this, or could I do this by machine? Absolutely. You could just throw this quilt right under the machine and just, sew this right into place. Do that with my hand directly under there. I know doing this quilting at the wrong angle, but the right angle for the right angle for television. So. I am only quilting with one thread layer. That is how this has been quilted. So you can see those little bitty stitches. They're just as far apart as mine. So it's keeping in line with the age of this quilt. So there we are. We're all done. And we're now back through. I'm going to take 2 little stay stitches here on the back and a knot. And look, even the other person's threads, you can see them, so it doesn't. Okay. Trim that off, and that patch is done. All right. Okay, so you remember this one here that just needs that little square of batting. What I would do is just stitch this little square of batting in, go ahead and patch that side. So then we will have 2 pieces here for this quilt that will patch this together. Now I want to talk to you before we move on, because we still have a few more minutes in our show. We have this one here where there's just like the fabric is still in the process of fraying, and yet the batting has not come completely out. And so what can we do to secure and or stabilize this area so that we can have a so we can still use it in this form, but we may not need to completely replace this block just yet, because it's still in halfway decent shape. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm just threading another needle, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to come. Look at it. There we go. Okay. So we don't have, like, the block is not completely deteriorating. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come up from the back right at one of these little sections. And so we can start like here. Let's see, maybe it'll pop out here in a second. There we go. We're starting here. And what we're gonna do, needle, that little knot is not very big, so it just popped right there. We're gonna come up through here, and we're going to just almost darn it. Okay, we're just coming in with some stitches, and we're going, see how I'm just kind of crossing over all of that openness area, and I'm just trying to keep what little these shreds from widening. I'm even going through the batting, so the batting is helping it, but I'm gonna come down a little bit so you can see this, okay? That is just to keep these sections from continuing to fray any further. And then we can actually go through the good part of the fabric so that, you know, it stays. And I'm not going through all the way to the bottom of the quilt, okay? So I'm not catching the backing or anything here. I'm just going through and just, you know, again, it's almost like a little darning that we're doing to keep the block from shredding any further. And, you know, this is a good, this is a great little quilt, and I do love it. So it's been washed so many times that it's that like perfect softness and comfiness, and it just reminds me of grandma and my grandmother-in-law who gave it to me. And there's pictures of my great grandmother-in-law making a quilt like this. It's a black and white picture, so it's hard to tell if it's this quilt. So there's that. But that's pretty neat. So as you can see, then, you know, this area is a little bit more stabilized. Now we're at a point where the gap is a little bit wider, so I'm unable to just loop over it. So as you can see, I'm kind of like going down, and then I will turn and go back up. And I'm just trying to make sure I catch that little edge of the fabric so that it is secured. And so without even leading, I'm gonna do this area here. And what that's doing is it's giving the edge the ability to be caught under the thread. And then, you know, this batting we're catching also so that we're not, like I said, it's almost like we're darning this hole without darning, like over it completely. So we can tell that I'm just trying to catch it so that it doesn't fall apart anymore. Now, you're probably like, oh my God, Cheryl, like textile conservators would be so mad at you, and they would be like, this is not how you do this. And, you know, however, as I spoke about in the beginning of this video, this quilt is not historically significant. It is significant to me. It is significant to my family. But it is not a quilt that, like 100 years from now, somebody's going to go, oh my God, look what she did. Now, I will say that what I have done is reversible. Okay, so in the Textile Conservancy, securing this area is just keeping this, keeping this from fraying anymore. And also, but it's a reversible technique, right? I can take this thread out and carefully, and I'm not using any other color but white so that you don't migrate any dye. So, am I using a textile conservancy method? Not really, but is that stabilizing it? Sorry, that's an English word there. Um, yes, I'm keeping this from fraying any more than it already is. And if it does, it will just be under these stitches. And again, this is just so I can use it. I want to use and love this quilt. Okay, I'm trying to stabilize these from fraying any further so that I can continue to use this quilt. So if you have a block that isn't completely disintegrated and gone, you can use this sort of like darning method to keep the pieces from going any further. But again, your thread, your quilt, it may just be too shredded up. Now, here's the thing, and like I said, I'm only showing this to you on this quilt because I do use this quilt, even though it is somewhat shredding and falling apart. I'm having a little difficulty with this. Made my thread too short. Now, when you are at home and you have a piece of thread, try not to sew down to the last inch or so, because what happens is you get to this and then you can't do anything with that piece of thread because it's too short. They're still making thread, my friends. They will still sell you more. So as you can see, okay, from the edge here, right? See how this is all sticking up and fluffing out, and this area here is down and all secured. So that's what we're trying to do. For this quilt, and let me back it way out again, because I wanna show this to you. Let me get these pins out of the way so I don't fix that big one later. Of course, I've got thread stuck to me. Oh, it's gonna be one of those. Okay, so here's the quilt. As you can see, many of these blocks just fine. This is what happens, right? And there are sections of this quilt where they're like completely, they're even almost nearly gone. Okay, I still live with this quilt. I still sleep with this quilt on my bed. I put it on the back of my sofa. I love this quilt. And even though it's shredded down to this, I'll keep using it. You may look at that and go, yeah, no, that's too far gone. Or you may have a quilt that is more gone than this. But these areas can be stabilized and secured. These areas, okay, you've got some edge fraying going on. That can be fixed. Okay, you can patch. You can do that if you so choose. These quilts are still, this is in good shape. This is not in a bad, it is mess, in a lot of other places, but it's, in parts, it's still good. And we've got some, there's a whole block that's nearly gone on both colors, okay? I still, as you can see, the reason why it looks like this, I still wash it, I still use it, okay? Because I love this quilt. My baby. It's like my great grandmother loved me this. All right, let's find my mouse here. There we go. Woo, okay. So it's gonna be one of these days. You can see this here. This is not a bad section, I don't think. I mean, it is bad. Okay, it's rough, but these areas are ripe for you to come in with your batting and replace those. Do I try to match the colors or the patterns here? You know, use whatever you want. I've got some, some quilt. You can use some 30s fabric on a 30s quilt. Pretty sure some of this was feed sacks. But if you have, these little damage sections, right? Just come back in with those darning stitches and stabilize this. This can be before it gets even more shredded. Okay, you can save this part. This part's not too bad. Are some of these, worse than others? Absolutely. But let's go back to our saved room. Where's our rescue? Here it is. Okay. I don't think that's too out of the ordinary. I did see a project once, and this was pretty cool. It was for needlepoint. I was trying to think of the name. It was a needlepoint, and the needlepoint was really cool because what this lady would do is she would go to Goodwill, the various estate sales, and she would rescue needlepoints. And she would fill in the unstitched areas of the needlepoint or cross stitch or whatever with black. And in a way, that was the way to see how far the original stitcher got and what had to be filled in to complete it. It's very interesting. I kind of feel that way about this. Pick a color to repair your quilt with so that your future generations, right, can see this was the repaired part, okay, and that like the rest of the quilt will be the way it is. But if you have you pick a color like white, black, gray, whatever, put that so that you can see where the repairs are. And yeah, it may be kind of random. You may have them in various places. But wouldn't that be cool, to see the repairs that are so they're juxtaposed against the original quilt? I think that's pretty neat personally, but I'm also one of those persons who will rescue quilts. I think of rescued embroideries and rescued needlepoints and things like that. I think what she's doing is great personally, but in a way, that's what you're doing here. We're honoring this original quilter by saying that her patchwork is so important that I feel that it still has value and I still want to use it in my home. So hopefully you see that in the textiles that you rescue as well. It's going to be one of those things that your mileage may vary. Now, on this quilt back here, we had talked about this a couple of episodes ago. We do have just the one fabric, and it happens to be a very dark fabric. It's like a black or a navy blue. You can see that it's just shreds. The rest of this quilt is in great shape. So I probably would take the time to come back in and repatch that with just straight black and put that on there. Because again, this quilt is still usable. There's life in the old girl yet. My friends, it is Thanksgiving week, and that means I want to say thank you to you for watching and being part of the Heirloom Afternoon family. Please come tune in next week on Tuesday. I promise you that it is not the carbon monoxide getting to me. I'm just tired. I will be going, and I will see all of you next week. Take care of yourselves. Have a fantastic Thanksgiving. Thank you once again to all of you. Be on the lookout for our Black Friday specials. They're going to be great. You're not going to want to miss them. And if you are in Kentucky, in the area of Paducah, please come see our pop up shop on Friday, 10 to 4, and Saturday, 10 to 4. And with that, I will leave you. Take care of yourselves. Have a wonderful week, and see you next week on Heirloom Afternoon. Bye bye.